The day I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, I sat outside the hospital, holding the pregnancy test stick, lost in thought for a long time. My phone vibrated. It was Jackson, my boyfriend of 8 years. Lily, can we think a bit more about getting the marriage certificate? He asked. Sure, I don't not want to marry. Jackson seemed surprised that I agreed so quickly. He paused, then said he wouldn't be home for dinner tonight, and quickly hung up the phone. Jackson and I had been in a relationship for 8 years, and we were supposed to be getting married soon. We had started a business right after graduation, and last year, things were finally looking up. We bought a car, paid the down payment for a new house, and it was almost finished being renovated. If I hadn't gotten this illness, we might have had a soft little baby in my arms by next year. Jackson wasn't coming home for dinner, so I made myself a bowl of vegetable noodles. Hesitating on how to tell him later, after all, we had planned to get our marriage certificate by the end of this year. The doctor, a young woman, suggested that I shouldn't keep the baby and should focus on treatment. She said that since I was so young, my chances of recovery were high, so not to be afraid. I wasn't really that scared, because I had Jackson. He would always be by my side. The doorbell rang, and I was surprised that Jackson had come back. The door opened, and Jackson, a bit drunk, was leaning on Jenny, the new graduate employee we had hired last month. Hey, sis, we were drinking with Mr. Jackson from the client, and he had too much. His car's downstairs, so I brought him up. I'll take a cab back. It's fine. Jenny, wearing a pretty floral spaghetti strap dress, was slightly flushed, and she brushed her disheveled hair. Jackson, with dazed eyes, collapsed on the sofa and fell asleep. I took his suit jacket from him, noticing the faint scent of orange blossom perfume that had transferred from Jenny. Thanks, Jenny, I said with a smile. It's late, let me drive you back. Jenny hesitated but eventually gave in. I'm not worried about you. A girl taking a taxi alone. Yeah, when are you two getting married? Jenny asked tentatively during the drive. I was startled, then thought about what Jackson had said earlier, and awkwardly laughed. Maybe in another 2 years, after the company is more stable. Oh, I see. Jenny stared out the window, then suddenly looked down and smiled sweetly. I get it. After I dropped Jenny off and parked the car, I remembered I had left the vitamin E I bought earlier in the glove compartment. When I opened the passenger door, I found a torn packaging inside the seatbelt slot, square in shape. The oil inside the packaging had seeped onto my hands. I froze. I suddenly remembered Jenny's floral dress, her flushed face when she entered, and Jackson's phone call earlier. Along with the way he avoided my gaze when he was drunk, I sat frozen in the passenger seat, overwhelmed by so many things happening in one day. I didn't know where to start. Jackson and I started dating in our first year of university. He pursued me. At that time, I worked at a snack shop near the campus to pay for my tuition, and Jackson fell in love with me at first sight. To win me over, Jackson, a real-life rich kid, spent an entire year eating snacks. The day I agreed to date him, he got so sick from overeating that he threw up in the store, and to this day, he hasn't eaten snacks again. Knowing I had a strong sense of pride, he would eat in the cafeteria with me, and always bought fruits and milk, shoving them into my hands saying, "What if my future wife is malnourished?" He knew I couldn't stand the smell of cigarettes, so he quit smoking. One time, when his cravings hit, he took a lollipop out in front of his friends and, blushing, tried to save face. You guys don't get it. A man with a family has to do this. I never knew what Jackson liked about me. He was 185 meters tall, handsome, and a rich kid, but Jackson didn't care. He just said, I like you, that's it. He was a stubborn man, the kind who would stick to his path no matter what. I could tell from the Chinese New Year when he brought me home to meet his parents. I stood awkwardly in front of his parents with a fruit basket in hand. His parents were polite, and when the servants cleared the table, his mother gave him a knowing look, signaling for him to come over and speak with her alone. The lights in the villa were so dazzling, they seemed brighter than August sunlight, and I couldn't lift my head. They shone on my worn-out down jacket and faded jeans, my best outfit. I sat on the European-style sofa, trying to shrink my presence. The servants' eyes seemed to occasionally land on me, and I could almost hear mocking whispers, like knives cutting at my pride. I heard his mother hysterically shout, "She must know you're rich. What can she give you when she has no parents?" My heart felt like it had been stomped on, causing a sharp pain in my chest. I lowered my head, gripping my arm tightly to keep from crying. Then, the next moment, I heard Jackson slam the door. He stormed over to me, grabbed my hand, and pulled me up. "We're leaving, Jackson. If you leave, don't ever call me your mother again." His mother shouted from behind, "We won't give you a single penny." Upon hearing that, Jackson hesitated at the door. Before his mother could gloat, Jackson turned around, grabbed the gift I had brought, and said, "You're not worthy." It was New Year's Eve, and the streets were nearly empty, with no pedestrians or cars in sight. Even the subway was no longer operating. We had no choice but to walk to the hotel. As we passed over the bridge, the wind howled through my hair. The quiet city was alive with lights, the distant glow like a sea of stars, yet, there wasn't a single light meant for me. I didn't turn back. I just lowered my head and softly said, "Jackson, let's break up." He didn't say a word. "Jackson, I began, but he unzipped his down jacket and embraced me from behind. He held me tightly, as if afraid that if he loosened his grip even slightly, I would vanish. The atmosphere hung heavy with tension. He buried his head in my neck, holding me for a long, long time. Then suddenly, he spoke, his voice soft but firm. "Lily, I'll give you a home." When I returned, Jackson was already asleep on the couch. I gently covered him with a blanket. His phone lit up with 2 unread messages from Jenny. "She brought me home. Don't worry, Mr. Jackson." There was also a cute emoji of a little girl winking and saying goodnight. I felt I shouldn't be suspicious of Jackson, but I couldn't stop myself from scrolling through the chat history. "What did Mr. Jackson have for lunch today? Did she make you lunch? Mr. Jackson, why don't you ever eat takeout with us single dogs?" Tomorrow, the date was from the day before. I remembered that Jackson had specifically told me not to make lunch the next day. I asked why, and he hugged me from behind, kissed my neck, and said he was giving me a day off because he didn't want me to be too tired. "Mr. Jackson, when are you getting married?" The message came with an image of a little girl wiping her tears. Previously, he would reply immediately, but this time, it took him 10 minutes to respond, and he simply typed, "I don't know." He said he didn't know. I put my phone down without scrolling any further. There was no need to look more. There were no ambiguous messages, but when Jackson and I were together, he used to reply instantly. Yet, in that moment, I felt like I was the third wheel, stuck between them. I placed my phone back down, stood up, and put the medical records and pregnancy test stick in the bottom drawer of the study. With our bank cards, the wind outside had picked up, and there had just been a light drizzle. The wind carried a bit of humid warmth into the room. I closed the door and sat there at the desk, lost in thought. It was hard to say that I wasn't scared when I first got the results. Sitting outside the hospital, watching the busy street, I tried hard to think about how to tell Jackson, how to say it in a way that wouldn't hurt him too much. I wondered if I could say it lightly. "Jackson, I have both good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear?" If he wanted the good news, I would tell him he was going to be a father. If he wanted the bad news, I would say I was joking. Then he would probably tap my head and I would tell him the truth about my cancer. He would hug me tightly from behind like he used to and tell me not to be scared. I would reassure him, laugh at his nervousness, and tell him that I wasn't scared at all. Or maybe I should cry and tell him the truth. "I'm scared. Scared of the pain. Scared that the treatment won't work. Scared that chemotherapy will leave me bald and unable to wear a ponytail or look good in dresses." I was really reluctant to let go of this child. In the new house, we had planned a Lego wall for the kids' room. He had said that we would have a daughter who would play with Lego with him, and we would buy her many beautiful dresses. Then he would say the most cliché line that I would always be the most beautiful in his eyes, and that we would have many children. This child who was inconvenient to have, we would just forget about. But before I could figure it all out, his call came. He said he would wait a little longer to get the marriage certificate. Without hesitation, I agreed. He loved me so much, and he was willing to give up everything for me. How could I hold him back for a lifetime? At that moment, I even wished that he didn't love me so much anymore, because then he wouldn't be sad. Maybe, at that moment, some deity looked down at the world and heard my wish. He truly didn't love me as much as before. I wanted to live, but I wasn't sure if living would hurt more than chemotherapy. I spent the night in the study, with the wind blowing, still unsure of what to do. Jackson woke up at 7, rubbed his temples, and pushed open the study door. He was in his suit pants and a light blue shirt, which accentuated his broad shoulders and narrow waist. I'm not a person who cares much about looks, but I still found myself stunned by his face. When he saw me sitting there, he froze and asked, "What's wrong?" I shook my head, "Nothing, I'm just planning to take some time off from work." Jackson smiled and reached out his hand, wanting to ruffle my hair. "You can quit your job, I'm not unable to support you." I gently dodged his hand. Jackson awkwardly stopped his hand in midair and pulled it back. "Why do you want to take leave?" he asked, somewhat uneasy. "I'm just tired recently, since university. I had been working part-time to support myself. After graduation, I was the one supporting Jackson. He had cut ties with his family and started a business with his good friend. We were renting a place, and life was tight. To save $50 on rent, I would take an extra hour on the subway, waking up at 5 a.m. for an 8 a.m. class, and working overtime until 9 p.m. When I got home and washed up. It was already 11 p.m., and I could fall asleep instantly as soon as I lay down. We didn't have time or money back then. The most extreme part was that Jackson and I sometimes wouldn't even speak for an entire week, but no matter how late he was, he would come home. One time, he forgot his keys, and I woke up in the middle of the night to find he wasn't in bed. I checked my phone and opened the door to find he had fallen asleep outside the door. He didn't want to disturb me by knocking, so he just slept outside. The hardest time came during the first winter of that year. The company had delayed my salary for 2 months, and by the end of the year, I was completely out of money. That day, Jackson came to pick me up at the subway station. As we passed over the bridge, a new hot pot restaurant had opened underneath. Their signature dish was the beef oil hot pot, and the line was long. The steaming aroma collided with the cold air, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Jackson said, "When we have money, the first meal we have should be hot pot, from this place. We'll order the mildly spicy beef oil tomato hot pot and 10 plates of fatty lamb rolls." "Why 10 plates? 5 plates to look at, 5 plates to dip," he replied. Before he could finish speaking, he choked on his saliva and started coughing violently. I hurriedly patted his back. As I patted him, we made eye contact and suddenly burst into laughter. We laughed so hard that we couldn't straighten our backs, and people passing by stared at us. Looking back, I can't even remember what we were laughing about. Perhaps it was just laughing for the sake of laughing, finding joy in our poverty. Later, when we had some money, that hot pot place had closed down, and we never got to eat there. Once memories begin, they're hard to stop. As I thought about the past, my eyes suddenly filled with tears. "Why are you crying?" Jackson suddenly panicked, quickly wiping my tears away. "Don't cry, it's nothing. I just don't want to go to work. I'm so tired." I leaned against him. "Good girl, you rest well. If the boss doesn't approve your leave, we'll quit. How about that?" Jackson squatted down and looked at me seriously. The tenderness in his eyes was almost overwhelming. 8 years had passed, and the impulsive, reckless rich kid Jackson had begun to show signs of maturity. I knew I shouldn't feel this way, but looking at his face, I still felt reluctant. After a moment of hesitation, I reached out and tugged at his shirt. "Jackson, could you stay with me today?" In my heart, I thought, if he stays, I'll explain everything to him, whether we break up or make up. We've been together for 8 years. There should be a conclusion to it. "I have an important meeting today, but I'll come back early. You can nap, watch a show, or read a novel. I'll be back soon." "Okay." I let go of his shirt. Jackson tucked the blanket around me, kissed my forehead as usual, and said, "Good girl. Sleep well. I've washed all the dishes this month." "Okay, next month is your birthday. What do you want? I'll buy it for you." "Okay." I nodded, and only then did Jackson feel relieved. I watched him gently close the bedroom door, then heard the outer door close as well. Once again, I was left alone. "I agree." I lowered my head and signed my name, then pushed the organ donation registration form to the doctor in front of me. The doctor's name was Alice, and she looked young, probably only a few years older than me. She had a concerned expression as she asked, "Did your family agree? If they don't, we can cancel it for you." "I don't have family." I smiled faintly. "I've donated everything I can." After donating, someone would even come to visit my grave regularly. I watched her, noticing a fleeting look of apology on her face. "You don't need to worry. It's okay. Actually, your situation isn't that bad. Be optimistic. Your mood really affects your condition, she said, even more uneasy than I was. Chemotherapy and targeted therapy may affect the fetus, so I don't recommend. I know, I had already searched online. If it was a mild case, there was still a chance, and perhaps both mother and child would be safe. But if it was a severe case, the doctor wouldn't recommend keeping the fetus. If I had family with me, the doctor might try to convince them that I was only mildly ill. I saw a post in a forum where someone suggested that doctors should deceive the patients. When patients' mood improved, miracles could really happen. Unfortunately, no one was going to deceive me. I couldn't leave her all alone in this world. Like me, at 7 weeks. How big is the baby? I smiled faintly, lowering my head. Actually, I don't feel anything. There's a heartbeat. Does that mean its heart really beats? It does. Dr. Alice seemed to love children, as she couldn't help but smile a little when she said this. That's wonderful. I calculated the days in my head. If everything went well, I'd be giving birth in May next year. If everything went well. Seeing my expression, she hesitated for a moment and wrote a note for me. This is my phone number. If anything happens, you can contact me directly. Thank you, Dr. Alice. The bus was crowded on the way back, and I sat in a seat. Sending a message to Dr. Alice. Hello, Dr. Alice. I searched online, and they said both pregnancy and late-stage cancer cause nausea, and it's hard to eat. I'm not sure if that's the case with me. Just as I was waiting for her reply, someone suddenly pushed me. Young lady, this seat is for the elderly, disabled, and pregnant. You should get up and let the old man sit. A gray-haired, energetic old man stood in front of me, with a kind-looking woman next to him. Young girl, you're strong. It won't hurt to stand for a while. People around us began to chime in. I pulled out my medical records and smiled. I'm pregnant, and I'm in the late stages of stomach cancer. I'm dying. Can I sit for a while? The bus immediately fell silent. In that moment, I felt like everyone's conscience had been put to the test. I don't know why, but after saying that, I suddenly felt a sense of relief. Yes, I was dying. So what was there to be afraid of? I want hot pot. The boiling red oil in the pot. Jackson dipped a slice of tripe and cooked it for 15 seconds before pulling it out and placing it on my plate. I took a small bite, and it was crisp and tender, but when I tried to swallow, it got stuck. For the past 2 days, I had found swallowing to be a struggle. I had been experiencing stomach pains for half a year, occasionally feeling nauseous. I thought it was because I often skipped breakfast and ate irregularly. Back in school, I used to skip meals, eating whenever I could, and never at regular hours. My body had been giving me warnings for a long time, but I didn't pay attention to them. I used the napkin to discreetly spit out the tripe. Jackson's phone lit up. He looked down and quickly typed a reply. A smile that he didn't even notice appeared on his face. I rested my chin in my hand and looked at him. Sometimes I wonder, why am I the one who's sick? Why do the people who hurt others get to live long, while people like me have to suffer? The birthday song began to play, and the staff at the hot pot restaurant came over with a cake and a light board. They lit the candles, and Jackson put down his phone to watch me make a wish. Jackson, I wish you a long life, I said. Do you like the gift? I did my homework. Jackson began to boast. It was a horn comb, smooth and warm to the touch. I like it. I smiled and nodded. Jackson, after we finish eating, I want to go see our new house. Okay, it's your birthday today. We'll do whatever you want, Jackson said as he turned to help me fasten my seatbelt. When his hand brushed my arm, he frowned. Why are you so thin? Are you on a diet? I don't mind if you're a bit heavier. I haven't had an appetite lately. How should I explain? Sometimes, he could be rather inattentive, these past 2 months, while I've been with him. I never mentioned things like my period preventing certain activities or how I'd been bedridden with stomach pains. He hadn't noticed or asked. I thought about the message Jenny had sent him, one about taking leave for her period. Mr. Jackson, my tummy hurts. What's wrong? I can't talk to you about girl stuff. Jackson approved her 2 days off, and she happily sent him a message saying, love you. Jackson didn't reply after that. The car window was slightly open, and the evening breeze, carrying the scent of camphor trees, brushed against my ear. The colorful neon lights outside illuminated the night. I didn't really believe Jackson would cheat, because the evidence was flimsy. The tricks that a newly graduated young girl like Jenny was playing were transparent to me. The torn packaging could have been deliberately placed, and delaying the marriage certificate might not have been because of Jenny. He might not have fallen for her. But in his love for me, he had wavered. He could have chosen a male colleague to walk him upstairs. He could have politely rejected her overtures. He didn't have to reply to her texts immediately. He could have loved me more firmly, just like that New Year's Eve. If he had hesitated for even a second when I was feeling hurt, I wouldn't have walked with him. Love is a firm choice. Love is unwavering. Once it wavers, taking that step is just a matter of time. It was around the time for a stroll. And as we entered the building, we saw many neighbors, with noisy children running around. A little boy ran too fast and bumped into me. Instinctively, I protected my stomach. Sorry, Leo, come apologize to her. The boy's mother grabbed him and dragged him over to apologize. You're so thin, if you knock her down, what will you do? The boy's mother sternly scolded him. If you bump into the elderly, weak, or pregnant people, the police will take you to the station. The boy sulked, lowering his head and saying nothing. It's okay. I quickly crouched down to comfort him. I'm fine. Are you living upstairs? The boy's mother asked. Yes, the renovation isn't finished yet, but no rush. So, you're getting married soon. I froze, glancing at Jackson. Jackson hadn't replied yet when the elevator doors opened, interrupting the conversation. The apartment was still a bare shell, but we had chosen it for its good lighting. Across the street was a kindergarten, and just a few streets away were the primary and middle schools. I opened the windows and turned on the lights, and the evening breeze filled the room, bringing some life to the place. I held Jackson's hand, smiling as I pointed to the school across the street. Do you remember? When we bought this place, you said it would be so convenient for the teacher to call us to the school, and we'd play rock paper scissors to see who would get scolded. Jackson suddenly laughed. I remember, you also said, why is it always the one getting scolded? And then what did I say? You said, if it's like you, I'd definitely be getting a certificate, as the outstanding parent giving a speech. The bedroom is big enough for a partition to put 2 computers. You stopped playing games in your second year of college, and I felt so bad for you. We need an exhaust fan in the kitchen because you definitely want to have hot pot at home. You said we should make a Lego wall here, so we can play Lego with our daughter. I stood beside him, smiling as he unlocked the box of memories. The things he once loved about me, he still remembered, but when was it that he let go of my hand? The image of this well-dressed, mature man slowly overlapped with the memory of the boy who once dragged me away on New Year's Eve, reckless and wild. He was both the same and different. I didn't want to cry, but the tears suddenly fell. Jackson froze, quickly wiping my tears away. Why do you keep crying? What are you thinking about? I rested my head on his shoulder and stayed quiet for a while, then muttered, Jackson, I really want to go back to the way things were. Back to what? Back when we were the poorest. What was so good about that? We were hungry and miserable every day, and now look at us. If we want hot pot, we can just go. If we need time off, we can take 10 or 15 days. Yes, back then, we were so poor, and Jackson and I spent every day hungry and suffering. What was good about that? But why do I always yearn for it? I think I'm getting worse, but it doesn't hurt that much. Alice didn't reply to my message. I pressed the flushing button, and a pool of blood was quickly flushed away. Everything was clean again. If only memories could be washed away like that. I calculated the money I had saved over the years. Every penny was hard-earned, so I didn't want to waste it. I had donated everything. I texted Jackson's HR assistant, asking if she could fire Jenny and do me a favor. On the bus, I figured it out. I was a shallow person. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want them to live so easily either. Who says people can do evil without facing any consequences? This HR assistant was someone I had hired. She was a 25-year-old unmarried woman, struggling to find a job, with everyone suspecting she was trying to get hired to claim maternity leave. I was willing to hire her because, at 25, I had been just like her. The HR assistant, with her fiery temper, exploded when she saw the suggestive photos and chat screenshots. Should we report this to Mr. Jackson? No need. When it comes to relationships between men and women, one hand can't clap alone. Sis, don't worry. If you kick him out, I'll stand by you, she said. You see, women have the same standards. They can't stand betrayal. It's not just me being sensitive. Jackson would probably know about this in about half an hour and then text or call me to explain. If he drove home, it would take about 40 minutes. I thought for a while and packed my things. A canvas bag with my ID, phone, some cash, and my organ donation card that I needed to keep with me. Before closing the door, I looked back at the room. The sun was shining brightly today, and there was no wind. The washing machine was still running. I had thrown in laundry before I left and had forgotten that no one might be there to hang it out today. We had lived here for 3 years, and every corner held memories we shared. The carpet at the entrance, the jar on the coffee table that held candy we had bought together but never ate because it was too awful, the oil stain on the sofa from when he spilled it while eating spicy hot pot, which earned him a scolding from me. I couldn't look anymore, or I'd never leave. Driver, take me to the train station, I said, calling a cab and turning off my phone, staring out the window with calm composure. The city, which I had grown weary of seeing, suddenly stirred a strange sense of attachment. As if I couldn't get enough of it, I looked greedily at the scenery outside, and the driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror and smiled. Are you new to the city? No, I'm leaving. By the time Jackson finished his meeting, those photos and chat records had spread across the office gossip group. Jenny had swollen eyes from crying, hunched over at her desk, sobbing. I didn't mean it. I wasn't flirting with Mr. Jackson. The first thing Jackson did was ask Lily, stop causing trouble. All right, did you think about how I'll handle the public opinion at the company when you send these? I'm heading home now. He should have realized it sooner, back when he called Lily to delay the marriage registration. Her calmness had seemed off. She had been silently planning her revenge, not responding to texts, turning off her phone. Lily had never done that before. She was always straightforward. As he drove home, Jackson's anger slowly subsided. But he felt uneasy and disoriented, as if he was stuck in a haze. He remembered how, after drinking too much that night, he always felt like this. Lily had been acting strangely lately. Could she be thinking of breaking up with him? He parked the car and rushed upstairs. The house was empty, but the washing machine was still working, and the sound of it spinning gave him a slight sense of relief. Maybe she was just mad. Went out to cool off for a bit, and would return later. It wasn't a big deal. He hadn't cheated, and the items in the car weren't his. There were no flirtatious messages in the chat records. His feelings for the new hire, Jenny, were just a little attraction. She was lively and had none of the subservience typical of a subordinate, which made him feel refreshed. He had entertained the thought of her, but nothing happened. He just saw her as a cute little sister, that's all. He had gone through similar situations before. They'd fight, and Lily would start crying. Then he'd kneel down to wipe her tears, sincerely apologize, and take on the chore of washing dishes for the next month. They'd always make up that way. This time, it would be no different. Jackson sighed, leaning back on the sofa and preparing to make another call. But just then, his phone rang. It was Simon, his college friend and business partner. Bro, what are you doing? Even rabbits don't eat the grass near their nests. I fired that Jenny. You'd better apologize to your wife. A wife should never be thrown out, and don't let yourself get bewitched. Jackson's anger flared immediately, and he shouted, I have no idea what's going on with her. I haven't done anything. I can't even find her. Simon was taken aback. Has she run away? Went back to her parents? I've dealt with this before. Check if her things are gone. Clothes, ID, luggage. If they're gone, she probably bought a ticket to go home. You should call your mother-in-law and apologize. Bring her something to make amends. Run away. Where could she go? Most girls would cry and return home, waiting for the guy to come and apologize. But Lily was different. Jackson knew her background. She had been abandoned at birth and found by an elderly woman who raised her. The old woman passed away when Lily was in high school, so Lily had always worked hard to support herself. Where could she go? Jackson rummaged through the room but didn't find her ID. However, her spare clothes were still there, so she couldn't have gone far. Maybe she just went out for a meal, went shopping, and would cool down. 24 hours passed, and Lily still hadn't returned. Jackson paced around the room. Let's wait another day. If she doesn't come back, we'll report it to the police. Simon patted Jackson on the shoulder. I've seen this before. Usually, they'll block your calls and mute your chats, but they're always checking their phones. Just keep sending apology texts, and she'll reply. Jackson couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Maybe it was because Lily had been acting so strangely lately. She hadn't been affectionate, hadn't cuddled up to him or smiled happily in a long time. He remembered the day he opened the study door to find her standing by the window, so ethereal she felt like smoke that could disappear the moment he approached. When she turned around, the look in her eyes was one of disappointment, mixed with a hint of lingering affection. He had never seen her look that way before. 48 hours passed, and Lily still hadn't been heard from. Report it to the police, man, Simon urged. You and the missing Miss Lily, what is your relationship? Are you her husband? Jackson was suddenly caught off guard by the question. No, I'm her boyfriend. The male officer nodded knowingly, as if to say, ah, a couple having an argument, nothing unusual. Think carefully, what did Miss Lily say before she left? Where would she go? We'll register the case, but not file it. That unspoken part of the conversation, it couldn't be classified as a missing persons case, Simon reassured Jackson, explaining that in such a situation, they couldn't treat it as a missing persons case since they weren't direct family members. Jackson thought about Lily's personality, recalling a joke she made once. We've been together for so long, if you betray me, I'll make the breakup really ugly. I'll take all the money we've earned as compensation for the loss of my youth. So, this wasn't just a fight, it was really a breakup. Did she realize something that day when she was sitting in the study and decided to take her breakup fee? With a jolt, Jackson slammed his foot on the accelerator and turned the car around. She's really something. Between men and money, she firmly chose money, Simon joked from the passenger seat. Stop joking around, Jackson muttered as he opened the drawer in the study. The bank cards were there, and then, that one moment, Jackson felt the blood rush to his head. Bro. How much money did she take and run off with? Simon asked, laughing and patting Jackson on the shoulder. Jackson ignored him, his hands trembling as he grabbed his phone, dialing repeatedly. But it was still off. Lily, pick up the phone. Lily, please, answer the phone. Simon watched, stunned, as Jackson, usually confident, sat there, completely flustered. He had known Jackson for 9 years and had seen him full of ambition, struggling, but never like this, totally panic-stricken. Like his soul had been drained, sitting helplessly on the floor. Did Lily take all the money and run? Simon thought, cautiously pushing the door open. Inside, Jackson was sitting on the floor, his back to him, disheveled and broken. One hand held a medical record, while the other grasped his hair in confusion. Simon saw that Jackson's eyes were red, and the next second, tears started falling, clinging to the faint hope in the words. Jackson desperately flipped through the medical records, reading the lines over and over again, as though he couldn't even recognize the words anymore. Was it Lily's illness? Was she sick? Was she pregnant? When did this happen? Why didn't she say anything? I really am such a... Jackson sat outside the hospital, his eyes red, stamping out another cigarette. He sat there, thinking for a long time, but couldn't come up with any words to describe himself. He saw the doctor's name on the bottom of the medical record, and rushed to the hospital to find someone. How are you related to the patient? The doctor. Alice was young but spoke with the demeanor of someone who had seen life and death. I'm her boyfriend. Boyfriends aren't family, and I cannot share the patient's information with you. Alice, please, I can't find her. Jackson was completely lost, and Alice seemed like his last lifeline. I can't say. What about that day? If the patient doesn't say anything, I can't tell you either. Alice looked at the disheveled, red-eyed man in front of her with an impassive expression, not feeling sorry for him, just thinking that he seemed rather pathetic. If he were a good man, Lily wouldn't have said she was alone when she came to see the doctor. You should know better than me where she might go, Alice said, pressing the call button. Mr. Jackson, please don't waste the doctor's time. Jackson sat there in a daze. Outside the hospital, people hurried by, heads down. As vehicles came and went, the people moved like the wind, like a stream, busy, self-absorbed. Everyone had somewhere to go, but he didn't know where he was headed. He saw the date of the first consultation on the medical record. What kind of mood was Lily in when she found out 2 pieces of news that afternoon? She was timid. Would she have been scared? She cried so easily. Did she sit there alone and cry for a long time? Jackson didn't know. He should have been by her side. What was he doing at that time? Oh, he was socializing. Jenny had poured him a drink, and he drank it down in one go. When he saw Jenny in a spaghetti strap dress, Jackson admitted his feelings weren't entirely pure. Then he made that phone call about delaying the marriage. He turned her down first. That's why she didn't say anything. Lily was like that. Once rejected, she never brought it up again. Maybe it was because of her childhood experiences. Lily was a sensitive person, sensitive to love and to being unloved, like when she wanted to adopt a cat, but he had said, "We're not in a good place to have one right now." Lily understood better than he did, so, every time they passed a cat, she would reach out and gently touch its head, or, when they passed a pet store, she would carefully poke at a cat's paw through the glass. She really wanted one, but she pulled herself away. He should have bought her the cat. At that time, they had the money to do it, and a cat was nothing. He could have just bought it, just like marriage. It could have been done with a word. All the other issues could have been figured out over the next 50 years, but at that time, he thought it didn't matter. They had already been together for 8 years. And those 8 years had already blended into each other's lives. Whether they married or not seemed irrelevant. He was really such a coward. It was just a marriage certificate. Why was he so reluctant to give it to her? Bro, check your wife's account and see if she booked a hotel or bought a train ticket somewhere. Simon reminded him. She had gone to a small, inconspicuous county town, then taken a taxi to a supermarket in a remote village. The area was at the foot of a mountain, with a small, dilapidated supermarket and a bus that only came by once every few hours. Jackson wasn't sure why she went there, but fortunately, the village wasn't too crowded, so it wasn't too hard to ask around about a foreigner's whereabouts. Jackson showed a photo to the owner of the small supermarket. "I think this girl came by a few days ago," the shopkeeper added. "She just sat there for the whole afternoon, not talking to anyone, not even acknowledging anyone." "Where did she sit?" "Up on the hill behind, the old graveyard," the shopkeeper pointed. "There are some old tombs back there, been there for many years." It wasn't so much a mountain as a mound of earth. A few steps up and you'd reach the top. Jackson slipped the shopkeeper some money, and she led him there. Here, she sat here, a low, unmarked mound, with only some ashes from burned paper. Lily had no family, just a grandmother who passed away when Lily was in high school. Lily had once said, after they got their marriage certificate, she'd bring him to meet her grandmother. "Not now, no. What if we break up?" That time, Lily's expression had been very serious. "My grandma took really good care of me. You can't just meet her like that. I'm sure I'll treat you well too. When the time comes, your grandma will come in a dream and scold me, saying why didn't I meet her sooner." Ugh, Jackson, don't kid yourself. "Lily, can you honestly say I don't treat you well?" He hadn't treated her well. She had no one else, so she must have missed her grandmother. What was she thinking, sitting there that afternoon? Did she complain to her grandma, or did she keep everything about herself to herself? Jackson didn't know. He didn't know much about Lily's past, only that she didn't like to talk about it. Every time she mentioned family, her eyes would well up. He remembered how, when they first broke off from their families, they had struggled. He had fallen while rushing to meet clients, scraping his knee so badly that his skin and pants stuck together. That night, when he took off his clothes, the pain made him grimace. Lily had sat by him, helping him apply medicine, scolding him for being careless. He had dismissed her concern, telling her it wasn't painful, that she shouldn't nag him. Then she applied iodine to the wound harder than before, and he exaggerated his pain, even though the pain was his. Somehow her tears fell. "Hey, don't cry, I'm just kidding. It doesn't really hurt." But Lily only cried. He didn't know how, but despite being so small and fragile, she could cry so much. After a while, she wiped her tears and looked up at him with red eyes, saying, "Jackson, you have a family, go home, don't waste time with me, I'm not going back. They don't want me anymore." No parent really stops loving their child. It's just something they say when they're angry. Lily knew this, but she never blamed him. "They don't want you, I don't want them either." He pretended to be angry. "If you keep driving me away, I'll get really mad." Suddenly, she stopped, smiled. How could a girl's tears and smiles switch so quickly? He couldn't understand it either, but the way her eyes were red while she smiled was truly cute. Those 6 years of youthful pride. He had never gone back home once. Later, when the company finally started doing well, "You should buy something and go apologize to your mom. She probably misses you too," Lily had said to him. She never really experienced the warmth of parents. but her heart was soft, easily forgiving others, even when her mom had said harsh things. It's not easy to be a mom, carrying a child for 10 months, raising them. Don't make her sad. Without waiting for him to feel moved, she added, but I'm not going to see her. It was clear she still held a grudge. In October, the autumn breeze and memories felt as sharp as knives, each one slicing at his heart. Jackson suddenly found the air thick with fog. His trembling hand lit a cigarette, but the smoke only clouded his vision. His throat and chest felt as though a heavy olive pit was pressing down on him. He couldn't swallow it, couldn't spit it out, and it made it hard to breathe. What kind of jerk had he been? Once he found her, he'd immediately buy her a cat. Then, whether she liked it or not, he'd drag her to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get married. And from that point on, he'd never make her wash dishes again, and they wouldn't play rock paper scissors to decide who would cook either. He'd do it all. Grandma, I'm sorry, I didn't take good care of Lily. She's angry with me. I don't know if she'll forgive me. Please, help me find her. Lily's final journey ended here. She hadn't used any apps to buy tickets or book rooms. Jackson posted a missing person notice. It was a university professor who saw it on social media and found him. I heard from some students that they saw Lily at the university. She had returned to their college town. I thought you two were already married. Your relationship back then was all the rage in our year. Before Jackson could go to the university to search, the news from the hospital came. The flood of messages arrived too quickly. Grief doesn't give you time to prepare. It hides in the corners, waiting for the right moment to strike. She had the donation papers with her. Such a pity. She was so young. At the hospital, people hurried past, and here, tears and sobbing were as common as air. In this place, partings, even those involving death, were so familiar that even gods would pass by without a second glance. Jackson had been chasing her, but he was always a step too late. She must have hated him, leaving nothing behind for him. What's your relationship? I'm her boyfriend. These things can't be given to you. You're not a family member. I beg you. Jackson grabbed the nurse's sleeve and sank to his knees. The nurse, holding a box of her belongings, looked troubled. I beg you. I really don't know what to do. Passers-by glanced over, some surprised by the sight. Don't do this. I'm having a hard time too. These things have to be handed over to the police, to the family. What if there's no family to claim them? They might be destroyed, but they can't just be given to anyone. Simon pulled Jackson away, repeatedly apologizing to the nurse. Don't make it hard for her. She's just doing her job. There's nothing valuable here. I'll ask my buddies at the police station if they can help. If you keep making a scene, I won't be able to do anything. Simon coaxed Jackson into calming down. Let's eat first, okay? I can't hold it together either. Let's go to that place, Jackson said. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, and Simon was relieved to hear him say anything. The car stopped at the university entrance. The snack shop was still open. The couple already had twin daughters, laughing and chasing each other in the sun. Jackson, the shop owner, recognized him, surprised. Then quickly looked behind him. Where's Lily? She didn't come with you. Jackson bought a lot of snacks again. Simon knew Jackson's bad habit of overindulging in snacks hadn't gone away. Jackson ate mechanically. When the feeling of nausea rose, he forced himself to swallow, pushing the food down his throat. Simon wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. He watched Jackson finish eating, his head lowered, not speaking. Simon couldn't see his face, but he could see the tears drop one by one. Jackson bowed his head deeply, crying uncontrollably. I wanted to marry her, but I don't know if Lily would still want to marry me. I can never know now. Simon helped him bring Lily's phone. The password was his birthday, which he knew. The first message that appeared was from Jackson. Lily, stop being angry. When you come back, let's go get a cat, okay? Scrolling up, there were several unsent messages. Lily, don't do something stupid. Please reply when you see this. Lily, I was wrong. Please talk to me. Lily, stop being unreasonable, okay? Did you ever think about how I'm supposed to handle the company's PR? I'm going home now. These messages had no indication of being read, so Lily had seen them all. There was one message sent to Dr. Alice. Dr. Alice, sorry to bother you again. I really don't have anyone else to talk to. There was a half-hour gap between the two messages, the second one reading, Doctor, I'm scared. I don't want to die. Dr. Alice might have been asleep, as there was no reply. Then came a long silence. Lily didn't bother her again. It was the night after they had dinner at a hot pot place. Around 3 in the morning, she had been asleep next to him. She would rather talk to a doctor she barely knew than wake him up. How disappointed she must have been with herself. Doctor. If it doesn't hurt much, does that mean it's not serious? No, it could still be serious even without pain. Symptoms can vary from person to person. I see, thanks, doctor. Jackson sat on the floor, dazed, opening each app Lily had used. She had searched for baby clothes, men's winter jackets, and wedding veils. On Google, she had searched for late-stage stomach cancer pregnancy, and how long can you live with stomach cancer? She had applied to join the Cancer Diaries group. And just yesterday, the admin had approved her request. She had also searched for rental apartments near the university. Suddenly, Jackson remembered what she had said that day. Jackson, I really want to go back to the past. She wanted to go back to the past because there was a Jackson back then, right? That Jackson would eat at the snack shop for a year just to pursue her, would stand by her side without hesitation when she was at her lowest, would hug her when they were poor, saying, I'll give you a home, no need to search for a place, no one can make us leave. He remembered the day she agreed to date him. He had been waiting downstairs for her to finish class. The weather station had issued a strong wind warning, and the wind had been so strong it almost knocked him off balance. It was the 9th time he had confessed to her. Jackson thought she would refuse again, like the other 8 times, but this time, Lily blushed and nodded. It was as if the wind had stopped. And the whole world went quiet. That Jackson was different from the one he was now. He said he loved her, but always made her wait. The ones who truly want to leave don't say goodbye. She just chose a sunny afternoon, wrapped herself in her most worn coat, left the house, and never came back. Jackson began to suffer from insomnia, and sometimes he couldn't tell if he was asleep or awake. Doctor from the neurology department wouldn't prescribe him too many medications. A half tablet or a full one, no more than that. Simon thought Jackson was going crazy. He spent a lot of money visiting so-called spiritualists, most of whom were frauds. They took his money and spouted all sorts of nonsense. It was so fake that even Simon couldn't stand it. They claimed Lily had forgiven him, that she would marry him, and that she had never hated him. Jackson would tilt his head, listening carefully, and when he heard that Lily was willing to marry him, he smiled gently and said, then ask her to wait for me. He often had hallucinations of Lily still being there. The hot water was still running, and the razor blade was still sharp. Her shampoo hadn't run out, and the towel was still hanging in the bathroom. Jackson still remembered her saying that this brand of shampoo was both cheap and effective, but unfortunately, it was about to be discontinued. She used to ask him what he liked about her. He would always say it was her long black hair. The truth was, he would never admit that he had fallen for her at first sight. When he had come out of the internet cafe after an all-night session, he saw her give a hot bowl of soup and some bread to an elderly woman who was collecting scraps. She told the woman it was free, but she secretly paid for it. It was late autumn, and the dim yellow light reflected off the morning mist and illuminated her face. He thought he saw an angel. Of course, Jackson would never admit that what he liked was her kindness. His group of friends always talked about liking women with big breasts and fair skin. How could he possibly say that he liked someone for being kind? That would be too embarrassing. So, he would always say he liked her long hair. The truth was, he would have liked her regardless of whether her hair was long or short, even if she were bald. But Lily, as kind as she was, held grudges. Even after death, she donated everything she could. She left no lingering thoughts behind for him, not even a place to apologize. The scent of her gradually faded from the room, and it was strange. Women really do have a certain fragrance, though people say it's the scent of cosmetics. Jackson knew that smell wasn't the same as the ones from cosmetics. He had seen other young women at the company using the same brand of cosmetics, but only Lily had that reassuring scent. It was like cat fur dried in the sun, like a warm blanket on a rainy day, like everything familiar to him that he couldn't quite put into words. When he was sleepless or sick, all he needed to do was pull her close, bury his face in her neck like he was sniffing a cat, and it would feel like a patient arriving at the hospital, immediately calming down. Her things were still around, and her scent lingered in the room, making it feel like on a sunny afternoon. She would open the door and say, "How about it? Did I fool you? Are you really crying? All right, don't be angry. I'll wash the dishes. Okay, the moment when a close, loved one leaves isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is the quiet room in the afternoon, the dark windows when you look up after coming home at night, and the empty pillow beside you when you turn over in the middle of the night. Before Jackson's consciousness sank into the darkness, he made a wish to go back to that day when the wind had stopped. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.